Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in a minute or two. Thanks for joining us. I have going to just get things set up here so we're ready with the slide deck. Maybe somebody can tell me if you're seeing the right screen here.
Yep.
Terrific. Okay. Here. So, well, welcome everyone. Definitely want to get started because we've got a fair amount to cover. I definitely want to thank you for your time for joining. Today we're going to be diving into the dynamic world of ESG. And so for the uninitiated, that's environmental, social, and governance. We're going to be chatting about this topic from a facility and portfolio management perspective and kind of touch on how data and predictive analytics and the crucial support from systems and internal teams like who you're going to be hearing from today are bringing to bring these important goals within reach. We've got some of the latest trends on the agenda as well, and plus a little insider information on how some folks are stepping up and expanding their influence and value to their organizations in the ESG area. And the cool part is we're going to be chatting with them directly. So you're going to get to hear from actual people who have been there, who are doing that, and who are weaving these components into their work. It's about making the complex simple and finding common ground, and also smart and savvy ways to manage and control processes and ensure compliance. So today's plan is on screen, and today's hot topic is going to be explored with the help of our all-star panel featuring Maureen, Garth, Rory, Michelle, and Tasia. They're each bringing a unique perspective from different sectors. And I want to thank them for joining us and their expertise, and we'll definitely get a chance to meet them a little bit later, I promise. We're going to kick off with a quick topic overview and then dive into the discussion. We are all ears, though, for your comments and questions. So those on the line, you want to pop your questions into the box. Ian will help us to loop them into the chat today. And definitely, I'd like to say stick around for the final act, which is a tailored tour on what can be a secret weapon in mastering these ESG management and initiatives. So if you feel like revisiting or sharing this webinar with anyone, we are recording it, and so it will be made available. So jumping right in, as a program manager at Horizon, I've witnessed firsthand the growing interest in ESG reporting needs and needs support. It's an area of interest that spans several areas in our solution, including green building, sustainability and risk, energy and contracting, and more broadly, life cycle asset management, operations and reservations, including performance metrics and dashboards that help to kind of make sense of it all. Now, I'm sure it's absolutely no surprise for you to hear me say that we're all finding ourselves in a pivotal moment in 2023, characterized by climate challenges and the adaptation to new work styles in our post-pandemic reality. But rest assured, there definitely are innovations available and coming that can support and guide you through these transitions adeptly, which will evolve as we are all evolving to meet these newer expectations and sustainability objectives. Recognizing the dynamic landscape, we at Horizon are keen to support our clients and the current momentum to help realize the Canadian commitments we've made, like the net zero by 2050, which was agreed to by 120 countries and was enshrined in our law in 2021 by the Canadian Emissions Accountability Act. So we are helping people to do this by leveraging and sharing key data that they are already managing. And if they are not, soon will be. So we are committed, as always, to helping our clients add value to their organizations and by extension to the wider stakeholder communities. So how do we achieve and support the many tangible and some intangible goals? Well, by remembering that first and foremost, we're all in it together, shaping a future that's not just profitable, but responsible and accountable too. So it's about teaming up, sharing what we know, learning from the best that's out there to tackle these big challenges head on and with the right attitude. So it's by using and reusing accurate data, sticking to the fresh and emerging standards designed to keep track and report on how we're affecting the environment. It's really not just the bottom line anymore. It's about what we're doing for our communities and for everyone that has a stake in the organization. It's now a triple bottom line, and you've probably heard this before, but people, planet, and prosperity, not profit, not just profit. So, and while there's a whole bunch of ESG frameworks available globally, Ernst & Young said that there's 600, it's really easy to boil it down to similar key metrics that are needed to solidify kind of accountability and tracking the progress against sustainable development. And there are standards that are already baked into systems that are ready to launch. For those who are focused on the E and ESG, that's about carbon footprint calculations and greenhouse gas emissions and tracking utility performance, remediation projects for optimization. And there are those that are more focused on the workplace experience, so the S in the ESG, opting to be able to create more responsive workplaces that are safer, more inclusive, and offer better communication and collaboration options. And for them, accessibility and utilization and forecasting are key. And let's not forget about the backbone of it all, that's the G, with the big picture oversight guiding us on how to use our spend and our resources widely, and to right size and ensure that we stick to our commitments and regulatory requirements and the mission. Now, last year, Verdantix conducted a global survey involving over 500 top executives and corporate real estate professionals from around the world. And they isolated the top concerns, which were the reduction of real estate costs, the enhancement of occupant well-being, talent attraction and retention, strengthening building resiliency, and also portfolio decarbonization. I think they really boil down to what you see on screen, which is optimization, resiliency, and enablement. And they underline the essential need to integrate all priorities and align property, people, and processes to advance our collective objectives. ESG score now isn't just a metric that was designed for publicly traded companies anymore, mostly for reputation management and to attract and protect investors. Currently, the emphasis is now on a much more holistic approach and concern with what organizations, their partners, and their supply chains are doing to reduce the impact of the environmental impact, and also to create a more positive influence on society and the economy. So there's legislation, targets, plans, advisory bodies, net zero challenges, and forums that are supporting a growing consensus on a conscientious engagement with real world objectives. Now, in a moment, we're going to turn our attention to our panel discussion. But before I do that, I just want to remind you that at the end, we have a great tour lined up that will showcase and some of the ways that might help you in your organizational benchmarking to manage and monitor kind of these goals or your own goals effectively. It'll be an opportunity to sort of see how everything fits together and how leveraging data and systems and especially teams can shape greener and more sustainable practices and compliance across the organization. We'll be sharing the link to this webinar and also the tours individually should you decide to champion the possibilities with your colleagues. My belief is it's really a journey together, and it's the best solution will come from a collaboration of different departments, all levels of our public and private organizations, so that we can adapt and thrive. We'll need buy-in and support from leadership, tactical managers, to the frontline employees and other stakeholders. So this is kind of a great place to begin our talk with some of them. So I have invited a few folks here with me today. I'm going to ask them to maybe start with introducing themselves to our listeners, and perhaps ask that you share a little about your current role, portfolio, maybe the area that you manage. So we can.
Yeah, sorry. My name is Garth Boulanger. I'm a director with the Ministry of SaaS Builds and Procurement with the Government of Saskatchewan. And one of my areas of responsibility is managing our IWMS application for the ministry. Our property management division here owns, manages, operates, and even leases space. We have approximately 770 buildings covering around 10 million square feet of space. Our portfolio is made up 80% is space that we own, and 20% we lease. We manage all types of buildings across all sectors, including our legislative building, our correctional facilities, office buildings, highway maintenance buildings, courthouses, technical schools, sheds, shacks, you name it. It falls under our portfolio. The only thing that we don't manage on behalf of the province are the K-12 schools and our hospitals. Those are owned and managed by the different school divisions and the health authorities. So, Rory, or actually, Maureen.
Yes, my name is Maureen Reed. I serve as the business analyst with the Government of Saskatchewan, supporting our building and equipment maintenance system for the past 6 years. My focus is on supporting close to 1,300 users. I provide training, I receive feedback for system improvements from those users, and I work with our vendor to implement improvements, resolve issues, and lead the system upgrades.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn. So good day, everybody. My name is Rory Mauricio, and I've been with Edmonton Public School Division for the past 6 years. I'm part of a team that manages the division's IWMS system. We take care of 220 plus buildings, covering 1.3 million square meters of space. For those of you metrically challenged, that's 15 million square feet of space. Currently, we have over 115,000 students attending our schools, and we also manage over 160 leases annually to third parties. Our goal is to have our facility information data accurately captured and stored in one place for better decision making for our students. My experience with ESG is through the work we're doing with facility work requests, health and safety tracking, and compliance and asset management systems. We are currently gathering data, ensuring accuracy, which allows us to support ESG initiatives for Edmonton Public. And I'm glad to be part of this conversation with you today.
Bonjour, hello. I'm Michel Ajbot. I'm coming to you from the unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory here in Ottawa. I have been working with the Department of Justice for just about 9 years now as the FM systems manager for our IWMS software. In the National Accommodations Division. It's kind of odd because it's sort of an IT tool, but I'm not in IT. And it's kind of hard to explain to some folks that that's my role, but that's what I do. We have 72 floor plates, 20 buildings, 5 regions, coast to coast to coast, 5,000 staff that we support. And our main focus is getting our accommodations and our regional accommodations and security account users in the system and helping us keep it up to date. And we also manage, just like my compatriots here on the panel, our service requests, our tenant service requests, and we do some portfolio planning with all that. All of this with partnership within other Government of Canada departments. The pandemic has really uplifted that collaboration, and with support from our vendors. Our main goal is to get to some sort of good oversight on planning, getting that bucket, as also said before, of all of our data in the spot. And our recent add is the reservation module in support of our return to office for the Government of Canada goal of 2 days a week in office as part of the common hybrid model. And my ESG experience is kind of skimming just the top as a learner, but I am now plugging in, trying to gather information and offering our services as a good foundation for what we've got in our portfolio for our Justice Green team, who are taking lead from the Government of Canada's greening initiatives and goals. So that's where we are here at Justice.
Awesome. And I'm Tasia Lico. I'm Executive Director on the project delivery side here at Horizon. So I work alongside Ayanna and all of the clients we have on the call today as well. So we support hundreds of clients across Canada and North America. We bring data together on people, places, assets, and we've supported many clients through the roadmaps of their sustainability goals by leveraging the data and the technology. But at Horizon, we're not only concerned with supporting our clients through their sustainability roadmap, we're also very interested in analyzing what we're doing internally and our corporate social responsibility here at Horizon as well. And so in order to support that sustainable practice, I'm part of an internal team here at Horizon, and we're tasked with measuring what we're doing well and benchmarking ourselves against global standards and practices to demonstrate leadership in the industry, transparency, operational resiliency, and truly demonstrating to our clients that we're focused on sustainability as well. So happy to be here today.
Great. Thank you, guys. Definitely you will have seen that these folks all come from their introductions from public and private sectors spanning federal, provincial, and educational organizations. They really have multifaceted roles. There's project delivery, central services, operational business analysts, and national accommodation services. So, you know, basically playing roles in their respective organizations, and looking forward to hearing from them. My first question for them today is, has ESG initiatives influenced your organizational business strategy? And do you see your role within the organization changing at all? I'm basically curious also about what drivers you've experienced or are experiencing today.
It's Garth here. I'll go first. I'm not really sure that our organization has really formally embraced the concept of ESG, but definitely informally, I believe we do a lot of initiatives around here that fall into that space. So on the environmental side of things, we have a broad 10-year goal in our ministry to reduce our carbon emissions, especially from gas and electricity in our buildings by 30% by the year 2030. And what that's done is that has influenced how our engineering team evaluates all of our capital projects with that 30% carbon emission goal in mind. And now when we do major work or major projects in buildings, we look at everything from the LED lighting to energy efficient building components, capacitor technology, solar panels, heat pumps, and kind of fits into the environmental and the socials. We also try and design all of our new builds and major retrofits with the goal of attaining a BOMA Best or LEED certification. And other things that we're kind of looking at to the future is we're currently looking at tracking water usage and measuring waste and that sort of thing. On the social side, we're looking at things like building accessibility, air quality, hazardous materials, and again, this influences the type of projects we undertake in our buildings and that sort of thing. On the governance operational side of things, we try and manage our space utilization through approval processes and space standards and chargebacks. Our IWMS system manages our portfolio space. We use metrics like current replacement values, facility condition indexes to drive our maintenance decisions and our maintenance budgets. We use all kinds of service standards and KPI reports for things like overdue preventative maintenance requests or tasks, and things like response times for maintenance requests. And how has this affected my role or our role here? You know, we get more and more requests for reports and data. I mean, data is really key. So do you have anything to add to that, Maureen?
Yeah, just on the social side. So our building and equipment maintenance system gives the government of Saskatchewan a tool to ensure our buildings and equipment are running optimally. And the system also gives our tenants the ability to advise us if there are any issues so their safety can be ensured. That was all I had to add. Thanks, Garth.
Okay, in terms of Edmonton Public, like Garth mentioned, there really isn't a formalized ESG direction. It's more grassroots from an Edmonton Public point of view. So Edmonton Public Schools' main driver has always been to be good stewards of the funding we receive and ensuring every single penny is put towards our classrooms. So our division leadership actively promotes comprehensive approach to student and staff well-being. So my team contributes to that through the work we're currently doing. So for example, our work request system and processes are working towards reducing our environmental footprint. We've assigned Chromebooks to all of our tradespeople, and we eliminated the need to print paper binders to distribute to the trades when they're doing their assignments. So this allows us to realize efficiencies because the information is also readily accessible by everyone, from the school admin that made the work request to the principal, to the foreman managing the trades, and all the way to senior management reviewing the cost and time that is required to execute the work request at an executive level. We're also tracking our solar panels through our asset management module. We take advantage of available government grants and funding to install solar panels on, we've got about 25 schools now involved. We maintain the installation, life cycle, and warranties of these panels in our asset module, and where the data is readily available in terms of analyzing value for money, et cetera, and all the KPIs involved with that. And lastly, through our health and safety module, we also track all of the division security and insurance incidents, which enables our security unit to provide safer and learning and working environments in our buildings. So just some of the examples of how the systems at Edmonton Public are being influenced by ESG.
C'est à mon tour. At Justice, the ESG efforts are really, again, just skimming it and beginning to take light, but we are now communicating to each other better, especially on the governance side, and getting the information we need in place to be able to respond to any requests like Garth has been receiving. And we're now opening those lines of communication to understand how the top-down directives from the Government of Canada, the Treasury Board Secretariat, Director Generals, and down to the grassroots piece is working, and also how our clients through our tenant service request system are now asking for, how are you managing these requests and how are you disposing of surplus equipment and so on, because they're curious to understand how their footprint is actually taking place within our buildings. And we've done the same and similar to what has been done is we got with our tenant service request system, eliminated the masses of different paper and systems across the country, and it's all in a central repository. We are considered doing the electronics to our press people also, but that's been very well received, and we can track those against our service level agreements and goals to get those tickets turned around quite quickly. On the long term, we're looking to reduce budgets and look at a strategic view for planning, and all this will happen in conjunction with those ESG goals.
Awesome. And here at Horizon, the ESG strategy kind of has two sides to it. The sustainability of Horizon internally, and then sustainability by Horizon and how we support our clients in meeting their sustainability goals. And so internally, we're assessing our environmental footprint. We're discovering ways to make a safer, inclusive, and more resilient workspace. And we're looking at our governance and how we can be transparent with our employees about our ESG goals. We've already done a lot of great things internally. We're already doing a lot of great things. So it's just a matter of benchmarking ourselves against those standards that I mentioned earlier. Our employees see these trends with our clients, and so the employees are key drivers to wanting to do more with the ESG goals internally. And sustainability by Horizon entails supporting our clients through their efforts, their goals, and our day-to-day work with them tells us that it's more than just a trend. There's the need. I think everyone on this call has echoed the same thing. There's a need there, whether it's top down or whether it's coming from the internal teams themselves. Our employees are seeing that with their engagement with our clients. And our technology and expertise has the ability to help those clients. And so that's kind of one of our business strategies, is not only making Horizon sustainable internally, but helping our clients achieve those sustainability goals as well.
Thank you, guys. So moving on to the second question of today, what tools or practices do you have or could help you support the sustainability, social, or governance goals that we're talking about? So love to hear just a couple quick examples of your own optimization successes or improvements.
You know, I would say that our major tool supporting ESG would be our IWMS system. We use that system to collect all of our data, building energy consumption, cost data. We use the leasing side to track and manage our leases and space utilization. We use the maintenance side to ensure both scheduled and demand maintenance tasks get tracked and completed through our ticketing system. We also manage our on-demand maintenance requests from our tenants, which is all done online. So, I mean, that really is the base that we drive all of our decision making from. Some of the practices that we do, like we do things like performing annual building assessments on our portfolio every year, which identifies deficiencies and deferred maintenance and that sort of thing, which feeds into our systems again and helps us with our FCI calculations. We're tapping into building meters to get on the line real-time energy consumption data. One thing we do in our province is we actually charge our ministries for the space they occupy, and we use the system to manage that too. We feel that this ensures our ministries that occupy our space plan for it, budget for it, and it's included as part of the cost of delivering their program. So it kind of forces them to follow some sort of space standard and allows our planners to better manage our space too. Something that's just coming down the pipe here, we're just about ready to implement an energy challenge to all of our building staff to make our carbon reduction goal top of mind. So that's kind of a cool thing that's coming down. So we have all kinds of tools and practices that we use that fall under the ESG umbrella. Some of examples of our optimization and reporting successes is one of the key ones is the ability for our staff to analyze detailed energy data usage for their buildings, which gives them the ability to make adjustments to their building operations or recommend equipment changes and retrofits. And they can make these adjustments and then see the results almost immediately. Our maintenance KPI reports, we have a bunch of KPI, key performance indicator reports, have put more focus on making sure our maintenance, preventative maintenance gets completed on time, which leads to less maintenance and more efficient buildings. Our extensive maintenance and deferred maintenance data is also used to calculate building portfolio FCI numbers. And this has been a huge factor in justifying projects and securing our annual building maintenance budget from Treasury Board. I mean, we have a very good reputation now of being able to spend our money wisely on our maintenance projects. Our data collection has also led to many building certifications. Our ledge building became the first legislative building in the country to receive the Rickhanson Foundation for Accessibility certification. We currently have 50 buildings certified as BOMA Best and 10 LEED certified buildings. And if you've ever been down that road to try and get this type of accreditation, you know, there's lots of data that you need. So I think those are some of the areas of success that we've achieved. So I'll pass it on to Rory.
Okay, so like Garth mentioned, some of our successes is probably the work request system is a great example. But you know, as you can imagine, we used to hire summer staff in order to print hundreds of binders of all of the preventative maintenance work that our trades are required to perform on every school year. And so, you know, you can imagine the volume of paper, not to mention effort required to provide these binders. We do over 35,000 work requests annually, so that volume gets quite enormous. So through our work request system, we've streamlined the process so that all trades are now provided with a Chromebook. So now they're able to manage all of the work requests online. And we trained all the trades and we trained the school staff on how to use the work request system. And so now everything is almost paperless as we move forward on things like that. Another example that we've done is 3 years ago, we started tracking our security incidents online for our security unit. And this allowed our security unit to analyze the data and potentially identify trends. By doing so, we discovered other business units were also interested in the data being captured for security incidents. So for example, our insurance unit realized they were interested in the same type of data that's being recorded. So for example, the property damages and thefts, names of people involved, locations, etc. So they previously used paper copies and Google Sheets to enter these by the school admins involved. So now we've streamlined it so both security and insurance business units are now sharing like data, and it's a single source of entry for admins, school admins, to record this information. So so those are a couple of examples on how we are realizing efficiencies in our systems. Today we have over 1,300 users of our systems, and it seems to be growing daily. So that's those are some examples for you.
For us at Justice, we have to keep reminding ourselves to think about the why, and our main why here in National Accommodations is to enable and support our clients, internal tenants and staff with a modern and better workplace that enables accessibility and the mobility in a hybrid sort of environment. And that includes our tenant service request system and also tracking the spaces and trying to find a way to track and understand the capacity and the occupancy of those spaces to see what kind of value and or how we can pivot to redesign or reconfigure a space to be of more value and to be of more attraction. And that goes back to the retention and attraction of our staff to make a place really attractive for them to come in for their 2 or even more days a week. On the back end, all of that is really getting us to understand how we can come up with scenarios for our optimization in the future. If we do find that spaces are not being used and they are coming to the end of their life cycle, and is it really worthwhile for us to renew that lease if we have data to understand that it's not an attractive space, it's not a space that is newer, or it's a lease that we can actually let go of. On the governance side, it's really all about the real property data. And Garth has really hammered this home a couple times, saying, it's all about having good stewardship of that data and sourcing it and putting it together, analyzing it, and getting it in good shape for use as a good foundation to share and bring in other components and other data sources to supplement and validate what we've got in place.
Awesome. All right, so speaking a little bit at a higher level from the Horizon standpoint, we've put together a committee that has been tasked with identifying where we're currently succeeding in the ESG space. And so we're evaluating ourselves against the UN Global Compact principles around labor, environment, anti-corruption, and we're publishing and formalizing what we are doing well against the Global Reporting Initiative framework. And so these are kind of higher level globally recognized standards, kind of what Ayana touched on at the start of the presentation. There's hundreds of them, and we've done a deep dive on our committee to identify ones that are of value to Horizon in reporting on, and those are the ones that we've honed in on to provide our clients and our internal employees information on our ESG initiatives. We are also taking steps towards the B Corp certification, and this is tracking social, environmental, and legal activities within the organization, and it's widely recognized. And so following all these best practices has allowed us to benchmark ourselves, formalize our reporting, monitor our successes against the industry best practices, and really compare ourselves to peers in the industry and learn from them as well.
Thank you. So my third question to you folks is, if you can just kind of reiterate what metrics or KPIs, which are key performance indicators, that you guys are using in your work or your organizations currently use to measure the success of initiatives, either ESG or other initiatives, and are you aware of particular directives that you might have been asked to achieve in related to the? I realize some of them have not filtered down, but just curious what data points you track and manage and do well today.
Well, at our ministry, we have, I mean, where do I start? We have all kinds of metrics and KPIs and service standards that we track and report on a monthly basis, and we get asked to report on different things and more things, you know, all the time. Just as an aside, we use a combination of reporting tools from out-of-the-box system reports to MS Access, Excel, and we're just, we have some people starting to use Power BI sort of thing. So, and again, I hate to harp on this, but the key is that this is the raw data. Majority of it comes from our IWMS, and it's just it's kind of a key point. Some of the metrics that we report on are vacancy reports. So we try and keep our vacancy rate at a certain percentage, like around 3%, somewhere in there. Energy consumption and cost by building, and we use that. You know, there's no specific goal there. We use it to compare. We don't like to compare buildings against buildings, and more of buildings against their past performance and making improvements. We have carbon footprint by building. Of course, we're trying to hit our 30% goal, but we can also do carbon footprints for each ministry and the space that they occupy. We can allocate part of that to their space they occupy. We track number of tickets and work tickets completed within standard time frames. So we have time service standards in which time to complete tickets or respond to tickets. We also look at, we have some standards on our life safety, preventative maintenance tickets, and our fire drills and overdue reports on those. As I said before, SCI deferred maintenance reporting, space utilization by tenant. We get questions on that all the time from different ministers and things. Lease expiry reports and reports to help us manage our options and our leases, all the way to asbestos reporting for our public buildings. We're responsible for doing that. So these reports and metrics allow us, to take advantage of, like I said, our lease options, make better capital decisions, make our buildings more efficient, allow us to provide, better customer support, make sure we're meeting legislative requirements, and just that our tenants and the public are safe and comfortable in the space that we provide. So, and also to make us better stewards of the environment. So that's kind of our metrics at a high level. I'll pass it on to Rory.
Yeah, for us, like Garth said, having accurate data in terms of our space utilization is really critical, because this is how the government of Alberta determines the amount of funding we receive on an annual basis. So we work very hard through our Space Console module to ensure accurate, timely data is available. Also on an annual basis, we serve our communities by managing and maintaining around 160 leases, like gyms, daycares, and classrooms for those sectors. Our work request module handles around 35,000 work requests annually, so we're able to measure and track costs and time spent on those work requests and which buildings are involved. We do those kind of measures. We also measure compliance through our environmental and safety system. So for example, on an annual basis, our division policy requires that all schools submit their emergency plans by a certain date. And so things like, school evaluation, school lockdowns, and fire drills, and all of those plans need to be submitted by a certain date. So we're able to track those kind of things. And currently we're working on integrating our Oracle financial system with our project management system to start measuring project performance, but it's still early in the process for us at this point. So those are some examples from Edmonton Public Schools.
Thank you, Rory. My turn. We're very early on our ESG metrics, but we still have existing metrics that we're using with our IWMS. Is again measuring against our service level agreement for our tenant service requests that do come in. Across the country, and in addition to that, we're now in a monthly cycle to do our occupancy, vacancy, and usage reporting against a space classification standard that is matching to our current common hybrid model. And beyond that, we've opened our communications now with our current sustainability development team, and moving that also because of the way the federal government works. The base building envelope is not our responsibility because we're a tenant, but we're doing our own internal stuff. But we're now opening communications with PSPC and their contractor Regis to understand how they're measuring those things and how can we work together to share information. So that's going to be an interesting opportunity for us to get into some of the more reporting that we'd like to do to supplement what we currently have in place. What is really interesting is how different regions are using our tenant service request system, and how the adoption sort of comes on slowly, but we're getting there slowly.
All right, thank you. So from a reporting standpoint, with the standards I talked about, there's common disclosure topics per sector. And so for Horizon operating in the technology industry, there's particular topics that concern us. And so one of those is energy management, specifically of the infrastructure, data centers, hardware, et cetera, is of great importance. And that's what we're going to be monitoring ourselves on here at Horizon. Customer privacy and data security is a large one as well. So ensuring that we're managing the data so that it's accessible and useful for clients, but keeping it safe as well. Employee engagement, diversity and inclusion. So recruiting and managing a diverse and skilled workforce is another metric that we're measuring ourselves against. And risk management in terms of uptime and minimizing disruption for clients from a technology standpoint. And ensuring we're delivering a strong quality of service along with all of these other items. So tracking all of those items will help us make better decisions, figure out where we need to improve, where we're not necessarily hitting the metric that we want to, and always look for room to improve.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a good one. How important is the people factor? I know each of you have experience with technology implementations and the adoption of innovation and change management. Very interested to know how important you think that is to what you want to do and how it'll make these kind of goals achievable.
I'm going to turn this one over to Maureen, but before I do that, I'm going to make the statement that I'm seeing our workforce is rapidly turning over, and the new generation of workers wants data, they want automation, and they embrace technology more than some of our us old folks. So they can see the importance of data and how it can help them do a better job managing their facilities. Again, I'm going to harp on this, that yeah, data is really key when it comes to trying to implement some of the ESG strategies. So I'm going to pass it off to Maureen now.
Thanks, Garth. What I'm going to share is not new to probably any of you, but it's more of a reiteration. So without the buy-in of stakeholders, of course, no system can be successful. In our experience, though, what we found that was very beneficial was some users became system champions just on their own initiative. We didn't tap them on the shoulder. We didn't ask them. They genuinely saw the benefit of it, and then that was shared with their peers, which then encouraged their peers to be more interested in using the new system. The message came from their peers, which they were more open to receive. And of course, when users see the benefit of using the system, they have the knowledge and support that they need that helps them overcome any resistance they might have to that change. And part of my role is, a big part of my role is providing that knowledge and support for our users.
Thanks, Maureen. So over at Edmonton Public Schools, we figured the people factor isn't really that important. We're just going to focus on ChatGPT and AI to do all of our work for us. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just going to piggyback off of what Maureen was saying. So our team has kind of taken a grassroots approach into growing our systems and initiatives. So as such, definitely the people factor and change management strategies has been critical to our success thus far. So being upfront with focusing the discussions on why we're doing what we're doing, has been key, as Michelle has figured out in his organization. So involving frontline staff in the discussions as much as possible, and the decision making is quite important. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, the key driver for Edmonton Public Schools is to direct all funding toward our classrooms. So getting buy-in from our leadership is key when additional funding is needed to continue with our initiatives. Not only in communicating how much it costs to move forward, but I think more importantly, how much it'll cost if we don't actually move forward with our initiatives. So those are just some of the items that we found with regards to people factor.
I'm going to be on the same bandwagon and indicate to you that we have learned with our client base that we can't push anyone to try and do something differently. We really have to nudge them along and gain that partnership and find an executive sponsorship and lead by example for ourselves, and trying to find those cheerleaders, like Maureen is saying, that just naturally migrate to those kind of things, which is great. And then faire promouvoir and give them even more ammunition to keep doing what they're doing, to influence others to help with, all back and again to the same cycle, is to get the data to do what we'd like to do with it. And by doing so, our own corporate services has got to do a little bit more of a better job of our own PR to understand, and a lot of people aren't even aware of what we are doing in the background, tracking our spaces and understanding and doing this kind of stuff. It's not 1955 anymore, 1965 or 75. We're really wanting to be more efficient and work smart. And to do that, we do need the people to help us go along and do that work.
And I'm going to be on the same wavelength. The initiatives are only as successful as the people behind them. And that's what we've learned at Horizon as we've put together this group of individuals working together on our sustainability goals. We found some champions from internally, from all levels of the organization here. And that's really what's allowed us to push this forward. It was not mandated from the top. It wasn't one person deciding that we were going to move ahead with this. It was a group of people who saw the importance internally at Horizon and wanted to push this forward. And we need them to support and manage that change internally. And that's how we've been successful up to this point in getting to where we are.
Thank you. Great. So kind of our last question for you guys. Have you got any advice to organizations that are aiming to use tools like Archibus? I know we've talked about IWMS, which is Integrated Workplace Management Systems. I definitely, encourage data sharing for ESG initiatives, but just in general for portfolio optimization, what would you advise folks that are here on this session today or might be viewing it from our website, YouTube, or blog?
So at our ministry, I talked to our engineers the other day because I wanted to see how they felt on what they could share, especially from the environmental side. One thing I heard from them was that environmental projects still don't have great economic payback, so they can be a tough sell financially, especially in government. So they said you need to pitch those projects based on your environmental goals, as well as the financial paybacks, and such as our 30% carbon reduction. And in order to do that, though, you need data to back those proposals and recommendations. So that being said, again, I'm going to talk about that your data is gold. That's where your value is. So you need clean, accurate, standardized data located in a central location, but it also has to have the ability to interface with other systems and other data. So we've talked a lot about KPIs and goals and service standards and things, that just to make sure that when you set those, work with your staff or work with the staff to set reasonable goals and measures, because sometimes they're not, and you tend to drive behavior you weren't intending to drive. So that's important to get buy-in in those. And then I'm going to turn it over to Maureen to just finish up on this one.
Yeah, in addition to that point of having goals that are realistic, is that if they're not, then people are very creative to find ways to meet those goals, and that's not necessarily the behavior we want to drive. It's not the end point that we want, it's the behavior that gets to the end point. So just wanted to add that. And this is a little bit in conjunction with my response on slide 4 regarding the people factor, but the ADCAR managing change checklist is instrumental just to help people with the implementation of any application communicate. I can't stress that enough, but just the awareness of the need for change, the desire to participate and support the change, knowledge of how to change, the ability to implement the required skills and behaviors, and the reinforcement to sustain the change. That's all I had in addition to what Garth shared.
So I'm just going to say ditto to all of that, but also in addition, I think over at Edmonton Public, having a good champion and also a committed senior leadership role has been critical in our success thus far. So having this air support is key for us in moving things forward. Also, I think it's important to have a dedicated role in leading these initiatives for the division. This is not a side of the desk kind of a job if you want to realize success. We also found that piloting solutions is a great way to flesh out any issues to ensure success before expanding it globally. Building in layers from the ground to ensure you've got a stable base will do wonders moving forward. And my last piece of advice: don't give up. It's the right thing to do, and it's definitely worth your effort. It's going to be, even though it is tough slugging sometimes, but just don't give up and keep at it. That's all I got.
Triple ditto again. I really like what Maureen said. Find not necessarily the lowest hanging fruit, but find attainable targets and go for it. And don't be afraid to be a bit of an instigator or innovator to try and, if you see an opportunity to do something smarter and not get into recreating the wheel, open lines of communication with who are the owners of the information you'd like to incorporate or collaborate with. And as many people have said on different industry newsletters and podcasts, is just start. Just get going. It can be small, and slowly you'll scale up and decide what you want to scale up to as something that is attainable. So just go.
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to agree with everything that's been said up to this point. I think one of the most important things is to define at the start what's material, what's important to your organization. That helps you define the what, the why at the start. That helps champion internally. Once you know the why and the what, you need to figure out the how. And sometimes the how can be overwhelming because there's a lot to tackle with sustainability. There's a lot to talk about, but starting with defining what your goals are is the most important part in honing in on an actionable path forward. And that's the biggest recommendation that we've had. When we first started our sustainability initiatives here at Horizon, there was so much to read, so much to learn. What do we focus on? And once we honed in on why we're doing this and what we need to improve, that allowed us to clear our path and have a straight line to where we needed to get to.
That's fabulous. Great, guys. Thank you very much for answering all my questions and for joining us today and sharing some of your insights with the folks on the line. I know I did say we'd have time for questions and comments, but we are very tight on the time, so I will follow up individually on any questions that come up after the tour. I do want to leave a little bit of time just to give you a snapshot, and it won't be the full tour because I think what was said today was extremely important for those of you that are interested in facility management and portfolio management for ESG goal attainment. I think what these folks are doing definitely starts the journey, and we're all evolving. And there's been some great advice and some insights today on how Archibus and by Aptura is helping them, but also really it's the data that's supporting initiatives, decision making, and so much more. So together we can. So just sit back for a few minutes. I will be cutting the tour a little bit short. You're going to get the full version after the webinar, but I really just didn't want to shorten things up because I think what we have been seeing is amazing, or hearing.
Sustainability, energy use, carbon footprint are all increasingly important factors in running a business, both from a regulatory perspective and also from a posture and a consciousness perspective. Archibus, as it helps you manage your workplace and your people, will also help you manage those aspects of your portfolio. Archibus is a great, usable, easy to integrate tool that'll fit nicely into your ecosystem and help you attain your sustainability goals. Archibus allows you to manage by exceptions, pay attention only to what needs your attention, and focus on doing the work that brings value to the business. What we're looking at right now is a sustainability-focused landing page that'll present particular information that might be important to a sustainability manager. Right now, I'm displaying things like my carbon footprint trend over time. I can also see any discrepancies in my utility bill, and these things are color-coded to draw my attention to where it needs to, and linked to quickly drill down to the important information that I need to pay attention to. These are fully configurable, and data is segregated, so a user who may not need this level of oversight might see a different screen. In addition, data is always maintained securely across the system. But this allows you to get different perspectives on sustainability. For example, someone who is managing space might be able to optimize the use of space, which then in turn optimizes the footprint of energy that space is using. So I can see different metrics here that I'm tracking, performance indicators such as my workspace availability, how much money I'm saving with my hybrid work, ratios, things that will allow me to minimize my spatial footprint, to minimize my energy footprint. As we get a little bit more specific into our sustainability, one of the key places we're going to look is where can we make improvements? Where can we improve our posture? The sustainability scoreboard is going to give us that information in a very visual and easy to act on way. So I can see here my sustainability factors are organized by priority and the value that I'm attributing to each item, and then grouped with a cost and count for me to pay attention to. Sustainability, energy use, from a social perspective, Archibus improves cooperative work in the workplace. Users can quickly and visually request services. So examples of that could be maintenance, moves of offices, any emergencies that they need to report. These are all configurable to what you want to offer. Users can book individual workstations or meetings with others, and that's done through a really visual interface. This can be done from their mobile device or from a kiosk as well. And users can even find a friend. So say I want to sit beside Nick, I can look for him, find where he's sitting, and I can book a space next to him. By making it easier to access the information and the services that the workplace provides, we're actually improving the employees' comfort and enjoyment of the workplace and making it easier for them to come in and foster that collaboration of having people in the office. From a social perspective, governance is increasingly important to understand the broad implications of our decisions and break programs down into their constituent steps. Understanding budgetary performance, including all the ways money gets spent, help to make the right decisions at the right time. Components like contract compliance, values and returns, due dates, efficiency ratings, these all feed the decisions that we're trying to make, and having that information accurate and upfront helps to make those decisions more effectively and more quickly. Taking the next step to take these high-level metrics and break them down based on factors of interest makes the job of decision makers a lot easier, and having dashboards to use makes that breakdown a lot simpler. For example, we can take a look at a portfolio dashboard that's showing us different values, efficiency of occupancy, and drill down, for example, to a specific location set that we're interested in, and understand how it's contributing to our overall stats.
So I know that wasn't the whole tour that I would have liked to show you, but I do hope that you found the little snippets there interesting. And when you get the full webinar, either the recording or the individual tour bits around sustainability, which is very robust inside Archibus, also the social aspects and the good governance, I think you'll find it interesting. We are at the end of the session, so I definitely want to leave you with a final thought. It's a quote by Lady Bird Johnson that's as true as it was when she said it, and it's a quote that we all really ought to internalize. It's the environment is where we all meet, have a mutual interest, and it is the one thing that all of us shares. So I definitely would agree with her, and I think that it's coming to the forefront as this is not just a nice to have anymore. We've seen it move into the realm of must. And if you have the right data and you can talk to your colleagues, you can form the connections like the ones that you've heard today, we'll all benefit and create a more sustainable future. So I want to thank you again. My coordinates are on screen. The PowerPoint will be sent out to attendees, and just let us know what you think and where you are in your journey, and if we can help. Definitely thank you guys. I'd like to thank Maureen, Tasia, Garth, Rory, and Michelle for your time today and your candor, and for taking time to do a little bit of thought leadership and help us all in this journey.
You're welcome, Ayanna.
Yes, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys. Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You
You
too.
too.
Bye-bye.